Hi, everyone. Welcome to our next video. My name is Brittany Quemby, and I am with HITMC. And today we are sitting down with Dalton Patterson of CorroHealth today. Welcome, Dalton.
Hey, good to talk to you. Good to be here.
Dalton was our HITMC winner in 2020 for Rising Star in a Health IT Company. So Dalton, again, thanks for sitting down with me. I'm going to pop right into questions. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Cool. Yeah. So like Brittany said, my name's Dalton Patterson, and I serve as the Director of Digital Marketing for CorroHealth. So I've held this capacity for about a year. And as some of you might know, CorroHealth is the culmination of four healthcare consultation companies that came together back at the beginning of 2020. We released CorroHealth in September, October of 2020 and did the full transitional launch just about a month ago. So I am excited to be here, excited to be a part of HITMC, and happy to be talking to y'all.
Awesome. So, you've been on a bit of journey getting here. You were with, a company previous to CorroHealth. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey into this role at CorroHealth?
Yeah. So I ended up buying stock in Starbucks because of all of the nitro cold brew that went into the process of transitioning into CorroHealth. So I held a specialist position, a marketing specialist, marketing and communication specialist position with Trust HCS. And when this merger happened into what we called NewCo, there were four companies that did not have a person holding the capacity of what I was doing for Trust HCS. So very quickly after one leadership meeting, I went from being the specialist of communication marketing for one company over digital to doing it for four companies. So quickly became the website, social media, email marketing, and external communication person for, at the time, what was Trust HCS, RevCycle Plus, Visionary RCM, and T-System. So what was cool about the merger is that I assumed that role and took over the Director of Digital Marketing position. But for a period of 9 to 10 months, I got to act as a consultant inside of this corporate entity, which was really cool because we had to upkeep all of the brands while we were working in the background, developing the brand of what is now CorroHealth. So in reality, I was consulting for 5 different entities at one time. And then we ended up bringing in TCP Services, which is another company that provides AI for CDI solutions. So 2020 was an interesting year, and it was really cool to work for a company, but be treated like a consultant inside of all these different divisions inside of the company, if that makes sense. So it was cool.
Definitely. And, I guess, 2020 has been crazy and interesting for, a lot of reasons. But, managing 4 separate entities and then trying to bring them all together as one brand is a feat on its own. I did something similar at a previous role, and, trying to get everything in order and to make a cohesive brand as you're still running those 4 separate brands is very, very difficult. So congratulations on, doing that and coming out of 2020 along with everything else alive.
And then the added component of, the name of the company that you're going to be rolling out, and all
Right.
of these details, and you can't say it. You can't
Right.
let anybody know that you know anything, otherwise you ruin the surprise and the rollout. So that was probably one of the hardest things, is knowing the branding, knowing the name, and not slipping up and saying that in the process.
Right. And it's funny you say NewCo, because at a previous company, we had the same thing. It was NewCo. So everything, the name was under wraps, and all the meetings we had was like, oh, NewCo, until the, the actual brand was released out to the market.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, you talked a little bit about Trust HCS. Was that your first role in healthcare marketing, or can you tell us about, how you got into your first role in marketing, and maybe why you decided to do that?
Yeah. So healthcare marketing was not my choice whenever I got back into marketing. I'll be totally honest about that, because I actually was holding a, excuse me, I was holding a project management title with a civil engineering company.
Hmm.
And I served that role for about 2.5 years. And I really was just not enjoying it. I was not enjoying the pace of the work. I was not enjoying what went into it. And I knew that my heart was in marketing. And I just, a friend of a friend, I ended up getting introduced to the board of what was Trust HCS at the time. The CEO of the company was actually one of my really good friends. And what I didn't know is that he was interviewing me behind the scenes for this marketing position that I didn't even know was available. And then he called me one day and he said, "Hey, I know that you've been wanting to make a change and we have this role available. I want you to come meet with our board. I want you to meet with our leadership, and I'm passing it to them at this point. I just want you to interview and see what they think." So I wasn't expecting to be in healthcare marketing, but here I am. I'm about somewhere between 3 and 3.5 years into my role in healthcare marketing, and I see it as my career. I know that this is what I'm going to do to the point of either retirement or full-time consultation. So I was not expecting it, but I love that it happened, because I love what not only my career, but the relationships inside of my career have turned into over the last 3 years. Um, Healthcare marketing is not easy. It is very niche, and it is frustrating at times, and the perception is that it's an industry from a marketing standpoint that's somewhat behind generationally. So it has been a challenge, but I have absolutely loved it, because when I get up and go to work every day, I have to think about, okay, how do we expose ourselves to a very niche target market that may not be as digitally advanced or may not have as many resources as other retailers or other industries, or fill in the blank. So
Right. And you say 3 years, and you've done a lot in 3 years. I know a little bit about some of the things and projects that you work on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But you should be congratulated for everything that you've done in those 3 years in healthcare marketing. So it's very, very, very good.
thank you.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the award. So I always like to know, what was your first reaction when you won the Rising Star Award?
Completely shocked. Whenever I got the notification that I had become a finalist, I was shocked, and I thought, you know what, especially with who I went up against, I thought that there was no way that I would actually end up being the Rising Star. And yeah, I was shocked. I was humbled, because I know the velocity, and I know the professionality that's inside of the people in the HITMC community. I know how much I have personally learned from everybody inside of the HITMC community, and I've always taken the fly on the wall approach, because in tweet chats and everything else, I just sit back and watch and learn, because I am still so young as a marketer inside of the healthcare community. So the fact that I ended up winning just completely blew my mind. But it has been very cool to continue developing in that role and having conversations based around that. And just you hear that everybody is their own worst enemy, and I'm the epitome of that. I don't I give myself a really hard time about the work that I put out, but seeing it come to fruition and being awarded the Rising Star Award, it was all just super cool and super humbling.
That's great. And I love hearing about everybody's reactions, and especially when you don't think that you would end up winning the award. It's always the best kind, but it was so well deserved, Dalton. So I'm so glad that you won it. And so kind of talking back a little bit about what you had talked about a little bit about your accomplishments up to this point. Is there a project, and there's a project that I know that you've done recently that stands out in my mind, but I'm wondering, is there a project that stands out for you that you've been personally most proud of in the last few years in your role?
people inside of the HITMC and HIT community have probably heard me talk about this, but the road to AHIMA and the continuation of that in the middle of COVID and the AHIMA Car Talk campaign, that's got to be at the top of the list, because we did something that nobody inside of the healthcare community had seen before. We went on a road trip. We video recorded everything that we did. We were posting and polling and interacting along the way. And it's funny, I don't want to call it a cult following, but there was this group inside of the AHIMA community specifically that prior to AHIMA, when COVID was a massive issue in 2020 regarding what do we do with trade shows, and do we go all digital, and do we meet in person, they were like, what are you going to do? You've got to keep the road to AHIMA going, and we have to see the road trip guys. So what are you and Greg going to pull out of the hat? So putting the thinking cap on, we developed the AHIMA Car Talks. So we knew the quarantining was a thing. We knew that people were not traveling, trade shows in person were not happening. So it's like, okay, how do we show our subject matter experts? How do we introduce CorroHealth? How do we introduce the CEO of the company when he's not going to be able to be on the trade show floor meeting people and shaking hands? So road to AHIMA, AHIMA Car Talks, I'd say those are two that I'm really proud of. And, the transitional campaign to becoming CorroHealth, the hashtag We Are CorroHealth that we had to continue using in Twitter and LinkedIn. If anybody wants to search that, you'll kind of see my process on how we rolled out the company on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and the process of consolidating the Twitter and LinkedIn, the legacy Twitter and LinkedIn accounts into the CorroHealth accounts on Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are, and that one's still ongoing. So I don't know, there's a variety. There's a few different things that I've just seen really cool response to that I'm pretty proud of.
Well, and I'm glad you touched on both of them. The one that you just highlighted, I think people will be interested in how you went about that process, because it might not seem like a lot to people when you're consolidating all these things, but there's so many little pieces that go into getting rid of those legacy brands and coming to a new brand, like you said, social and the websites, and redirecting people and making sure people know, this is what we're called now, this is our new name. There's a lot of small pieces that go into a project like that, and doing it, successfully can be a challenge. So I think reading about that, I know myself, it's so interesting to read how people go about doing that, and the success they have. So I think that's great. And I'm so glad that you talked about the road to AHIMA, because I saw that initiative and thought it was such a cool initiative to follow. And what really struck me was one of the reasons why you guys decided to do that campaign. And so correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to throw a curveball at you, but one of the reasons why you wanted to get into that campaign and start that project was that healthcare marketing really wasn't capitalizing on some of the great digital ways of getting a campaign out there, or some innovative ways to get out there. So is that true? Is that why you wanted to do something completely different that healthcare has never seen before?
Yeah, it's the challenge in healthcare is, how do you present the data and keep somebody's attention? Because we knew that we wanted to talk to people at AHIMA. We knew that we wanted them to stop by the booth. We knew that we had offerings that we wanted to discuss. So it was like, okay, how do we catch their attention? How do we make ourselves known on the trade show floor? And, fun. When, I'm stuttering, sorry. Whenever I came on with Trust HCS, I scoured our competition. I scoured social media. When I knew that I was going to be taking over social media, I'm like, all right, never done anything in healthcare marketing before, so I need to see what's going on, what I'm up against. And respectfully, it was dry. It was just a lot of sales initiative, and it was a lot of just very direct information. And I advised to leadership with leadership's full support the entire time. I'm like, y'all, we've got to have some fun. We need to make ourselves known, and we need to grab the attention of people without just solely relying on a case study or solely relying on some sort of poll that we're going to then turn information, productive information around to. So we just wanted to have fun, and we wanted to increase exposure, and it accomplished what it needed to accomplish. And it came at a price too. I completely humiliated myself because when we opened it up and said, okay, what songs do you want to hear on the road trip? What candy do you want eaten? We ended up doing carpool karaoke on the way to Chicago and back. And John Lynn goes, hey, I want you to sing Shallow by Lady Gaga. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
On it.
I don't know if you remember seeing that video or not, but I belted Shallow by Lady Gaga, and we dressed up, we put wigs on, and we acted like the Wayne's World guys. And they're just, it was just totally goofy, and it was awesome, and it accomplished exactly what we needed it to.
And, and I think, you say that you made a complete fool out of yourself, but I don't think that's the case. I think, we need a little bit of that less staunchiness in healthcare. We need, to look to our consumer partners who are doing, these unique and funny and outgoing things, because that's authentic. And I think healthcare needs a little bit more of that authenticity in the industry. So I think you guys brought that, which is such a breath of fresh air, for sure.
Yeah, well, and the word that you just used is kind of my mantra going into this year and coming years. I've always wanted, since I started in healthcare marketing, I've wanted to see healthcare marketing excel and propel forward. Because it is an aspect of marketing that is stuck a few years behind other industries around the world. And, I wanted to see new and fun things and authentic things coming into play. And with authenticity specifically, taking COVID into consideration, and I hate using those words, but it's reality. COVID has impacted what we do, the way that we market, the way that we communicate. And with people working from home primarily, and the way that people shop, the way that people communicate, it's all changed, and it's all been digitized. So, when somebody goes out, when you have that lack of interpersonalization, and you're not meeting with people regularly, and you're not sitting across the table from people regularly, when they get on social or a Zoom meeting, or they're searching a website, at this point, people are starving for authenticity. They want the personal connection. They want to know that who they're interacting with is being authentic and being real about, what is the need? What is the current situation? What are you currently going through? And how can we objectively work together to overcome whatever issue may be at hand? So being real, being authentic it's a really big thing for me this year.
Well, I love that. And I think you guys nailed it. So
Thanks.
So, talking a little bit more about the award, what do you think winning the award, what has it meant to you, and maybe what has it meant for your career?
I think that the best is yet to come. That's probably all I can say at this point. The recognition has been incredible. So this person doesn't know this. This person probably doesn't know how highly I regard him. But Gil Bosch is one of the most incredible people inside of this industry that I have ever encountered. He doesn't, I'm sure that he probably wouldn't say I've taken Dalton Patterson under my wing, but being able to follow him, being able to communicate with him, being recognized by him, and learning from him regarding worldview and healthcare marketing and interpersonalization skills. And I could keep going, but getting to work with people like him and you and John and Colin and Stacy, and I could just keep going, naming all of the people inside of the HITMC community that Um, I don't know. You guys have all completely changed the course, changed the pace, changed the trajectory of my career. And winning that award, I have to push everything back to HITMC, because I wouldn't have been involved with HITMC if it wasn't for Amber Doster and Amber Doster's tenure with HITMC. And the first year that I attended HITMC, I made all of these close friends inside of the healthcare industry that have just kind of picked me up and pushed me forward. And it's like, okay, lock arm in arm, we're doing this together. So what does it mean for my career? It means that I have this incredible community I'm going to continue learning from, and I really do think the best is yet to come.
That's so great. And, I feel the exact same way as you do, but the community and Gil as well. He's such a delight to speak to, and he makes you feel like you are literally the only person in the world, really, when you're communicating with him. And he's, so, such a good mentor that way. Although he might not think of himself as that. Right. But also the community, it is, what you said really hits home, because before I came onto the team, I used to attend HITMC, and really loved the camaraderie and the under your wing style that everybody has within the community, to really kind of lift you up and help you with whatever you're looking to do, wanting to do, or have done. So I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
So, well, let's take a little look forward into 2021. Where would you like to see healthcare marketing push the boundaries in 2021? You talked a little bit about pushing the boundaries with what you did with the Road to AHIMA, but what would you like to see in 2021?
It goes back to authenticity, personability, and just being raw. If there's anything, that I've learned in COVID, and I'm going to get personal for a second. My wife and I had a baby in the middle of the COVID lockdown. We're raising our first child in COVID. We rebranded a company in the middle of COVID, and this merger and acquisition happened in the middle of COVID. And there were a lot of times I was not okay, and I was completely overwhelmed. And if there's anything that I think that we should exemplify, is it's okay to not be okay. And it is okay to be completely overwhelmed and need help. And if there's a way that I'm going to market this year, it's that specifically, that it is okay to throw a hand. It's okay to say I need help. And I'm not going to do it in such a way to where so there's an analogy that my boss said to me, Greg Goodale. He said it to me specifically, and I think it's very true to the way that we should market to each other this year. And it's this: when you go into a 5-star restaurant and you sit down to eat, you're going to order a fillet off of the menu. You're not going to tell somebody, go to the back, get a live cow, bring it to the table, and let me point at the cow and decide where I want you to cut and then cook it. Right? So when we market, when we sell, when we are promoting, we need to know inside of the market, or to people specifically, what's the immediate need? Like, let's help each other with an immediate need. Let's help each other with this immediate fix. And then let's move on and tackle the next thing. Because and I do the exact same thing with my personal life as well. Whenever I meet with people and talk to people, or if I have the opportunity to counsel, it's, what's the immediate ailment? What's going on right now? What's making you not okay right now? And let's address it, and let's be good, and let's get it under control, and let's just keep chugging forward. So that was a lot. I may have rabbit trailed that a little bit, but that's kind of my thoughts.
No, and I think it's great. We used to live in a society, and I'm glad that we're kind of coming to the forefront in terms of, it's okay. Like you said, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean on our peers or our colleagues or our mentors. I think there was a time where everybody felt they had to be the best and do it all on their own and take on everything and be the best dad, be the best colleague, brother, sister, mother, but I love that we're getting to a spot in society where, we can lean on each other, and that's okay too. That doesn't make, it worse or better. It probably makes you better because you can learn from experiences from people. And like you said, you hone in on, what is most needed and go forward from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Absolutely. And, as a society, well, and I say this too from an Americanized standpoint, because we have this massive worldview, but from an Americanized standpoint, we're very impulsive and we're very reactive. And if there's anything that the last 12 months has taught me, it's that it's okay to step back and not be so impulsive and not be so reactive, and to critically think, and to be a little more exhaustive in the details. Yeah.
I totally agree. Any trends that we need to stop doing this year?
So I'm going to answer this with a trend that we should start doing. So we have to we need to get away from so many words, and we need to start showing actions. And what I mean by that is, it's really easy to throw a lot of content out into the cloud and be like, go get it. It's really easy to search keywords. It's really easy to search hashtags, and it's really easy to just absorb. But if there's anything that the last 6 to 8 months has taught me, bring in your subject matter experts, bring in your first line knowledgeable resources, and use video. Put a face out there, put a person out there that can speak real time to a direct issue, and grab somebody's attention and pull them in and say, we know that this is an obvious need. We know that there is X, Y, and Z happening inside of the healthcare industry. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, this is the way that we resolve it, and then bring it back to that interpersonal communication style and make it as personable as possible. So what I would say, this came to me just now, stray away from the shotgun marketing and start doing a little more sniper marketing in 2021 into 2022.
I love that.
So
great saying. And so for you personally, what is next for you and for CorroHealth? Oh man,
we're pushing forward. We have officially merged. So at this point, it is exposure and saturation. We want people to know that we're no longer the legacy companies specifically, but our footprint and the splash that we can make inside of the healthcare industry, inside of the revenue cycle specifically, inside of programmatics, inside of payer or provider specific, we can assist, and we're here, and we're continuing to build out our assets, our ability to assist facilities and payers and providers. And the next step at this point is to just help as many people as possible, and be there and be real for as many people as possible. Our healthcare workers are absolutely incredible, frontline and otherwise. What they are enduring right now, what they're having to deal with, even step away from the frontline workers very briefly, but you look at the administrative side of healthcare, and you look at the administrative side of the healthcare facilities, and their struggles are different, but they're struggling the exact same way that the frontline workers are, and they're trying to keep their heads above water. And I would say that I speak on behalf of not only myself and CorroHealth, but our heartbeat is to just try to take as much pressure off of people as possible. I know that our clinicians, our physicians, all the way down to, our coding teammates and the coding specialists and managers would all agree. We want to take as much of the burden as possible from people right now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good to see that in 2021 for sure. So we'll wrap up with this last question. What's one piece of advice you would give, healthcare marketers looking to make a splash in the industry? You've done a couple splashes yourself, but what would be that one piece of advice that they can take away today?
stay integral, but take the risk. So if you have an idea, just do it. And if it seems crazy, and if it seems far-fetched, and if it seems cartoonized in comparison to what you've seen in healthcare marketing, just go for it. You're going to know whether or not it takes off or if it flops. And if it flops, it's okay. If it's on social, you can delete it. If it's on a website, you can delete it. If it's a total fail, that stuff will go away. It's probably in the cloud somewhere, but you can take it directly off of the face of the brand. But take the risk. If you think that there's a way that you can interact with people or reach people, just do it, because you never know until you take the risk, and until you try the methodology, you never know if it's going to work.
That's so true. Well, and here's to 2021 and, taking all those risks. And I can't wait to see what you guys have planned and what you personally are up to. So thank you again, Dalton, for joining us today. I'm so happy we got to sit down and chat. This has been Brittany Quemby with HITMC. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Dalton.
Thanks. Appreciate you.